The next thing that we should talk about are logical operators, of which there are three. Logical operators are and, or, and not. Okay, and is two ampersands, or if you're not sure where this key is, it's actually above your enter key on most keyboards. It's if you hold shift and type backslash, you'll get this key. It's sometimes called bars or pipes. This is or, and not is simply a single exclamation mark. Logical operators allow us to expand the scope of comparison operators and Boolean logic. And the way these work is an and statement. All of these are going to be evaluating some kind of statement to true or false. And or are normally positioned like comparison operators between two expressions. So you might have something like 4 is greater than 3 and 6 is less than 12. Okay, this is an and comparison operator, an and logical operator, pardon me, and two comparison operators. Well, the way the browser is going to evaluate this is it's going to evaluate this statement independently first. 4 is greater than 3. That's going to evaluate to true. 4 is, in fact, greater than 3. And then it's going to evaluate this statement independently. 6 is less than 12. That will evaluate true also because 6 is indeed less than 12. And what we're left with is true and true, all of which returns true. True and true. This returns true because that is how and works. And requires that both sides be true. Both sides of the and logical operator must be true in order for it to return true. If this were false and true, it would return false. If this were true and false, it would return false. Let's try that with numbers. 4 is less than 3, and 6 is less than 12. So we should get false and true. And the whole statement evaluates to false. That's the and logical operator. The and logical operator. Both sides must be true. Or is a little different. One side must be true. At least one. Okay, so if we had 4 is less than 3 or 2 is less than 0, we have false or false. So let me change this to greater than, and we have true or false. So all in all, this whole statement should return true. True or false. False or true. True. False or false returns false. True or true returns true. Okay? Let's use some equals comparison operators in here. 4 equals 4, or 4 triple equals 4. We still get true because this side is true and this side is false. So you can use the double and triple equals as comparison operators in longer logical operations like this. Okay? You don't need to feel confined to less than or greater than. Okay, that's the or. Now the not simply returns the Boolean opposite. What that means is, let me clear my console, if I write not true, we return false. If I write not false returns true. What this normally looks like using arithmetic or regular comparison operators is something like not, and then in parentheses it's going to be something like 4 equals 4. So this statement is false, and therefore this whole expression is essentially not false, which will return true. Okay, not, let's try a complicated one, not 12 times 2 equals 24, and 4 minus 6 is less than 0. What should this return? There's a lot of stuff going on here, but we've got 12 times 2 equals 24. Well, that's true. 12 times 2 is 24. 24 equals 24. That's true. And 4 minus 6 is less than 0. 4 minus 6, negative 2, which is less than 0, also true. So we have true and true, but we have this not around the entire expression. So it should return false. Okay? If you're unsure of the order of operations of things like how does this evaluate? Is it 2 equals 24 times 12, or is it 12 times 2 equals 24? If you're not sure about that, it's a very easy thing to look up, and I would encourage you to either experiment with it on your own or do your research and figure out how this statement would evaluate, which would evaluate first. Same for this. If it's not going to be 6 is less than 0 subtracted from 4. It's 4 minus 6, and the difference is or is not less than 0. So it's something to be aware of, something to stay on top of. But those are the 3 logical operators. Now, these logical operators will frequently be used in conjunction with if-else statements to make them more complicated. So, for example, if Evan equals Evan and Matt equals Matt, console.log if statement ran. Something to point out here real quick. Notice how I'm suddenly using single quotes rather than double quotes here in my JavaScript. That's completely okay. The JavaScript engine interprets them both in the same way, whether it's single quotes or double quotes. They're both read the same way. The only important thing is to be consistent. You need to be consistent. I can't write single quote and then end the string with a double quote. That is not going to work. It is going to throw an error. So pick one and be consistent. A lot of developers prefer single quotes because it looks a little cleaner. Some people prefer double quotes. There's no real advantage one over the other. Okay, so that's our if statement. And then let's throw in an if-else statement. If 8 is greater than 7 or 6 is less than 2, console.log if-else statement ran. I'll discuss how this is going to work in a second. Else console.log else statement ran. Okay? So when you have an if-else, and else statement like this, the if statement will be evaluated first. If it returns true, you run this code and you're done. If it returns false, the browser will jump to the if-else statement and evaluate this statement for true or false. If it returns true, you'll run this code and that will be it. If it returns false, you will jump to the else statement. You will run this code and that will be it. Okay, and you can have as many if-else statements between your if and your else as you'd like. But there are normally cleaner ways to do things. This is in contrast to an additional if statement, which will actually be independently evaluated. Okay, this second if statement will be independently evaluated. All of these three are tied together. It's going to evaluate one or all of these three, run one of these blocks of code, and then it's going to move on to the next line, and it's going to see another if statement and evaluate that on its own merits. Now, the statement is false, so this will never run, but it is an important point to drive home. Okay, so let's see what's going to happen here. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not if else, it is else if. It's a big mistake. All right, so if, else if, and else. The if statement, we have true, and that's why we're seeing if statement ran. But let's make one of these false. Let's make this does not equal. So this should be false and true, which returns false. Remember, because both sides of an and logical operator must be true. So now we get if else statement ran. That means this returns false, it skips this block of code, and it evaluates the else if. The else if. And here we have true or false. Because we're dealing with an or logical operator, only one side of the statement needs to be true. True or false. This returns true, so this code executes if else statement ran. Let's change this to and so that the whole thing will evaluate false, and now we should see the else statement ran. Okay. So that is comparison operators, logical operators, if and else statements, and Boolean logic. We're going to see more of this to come, but practice. Try a few of these on your own, and by all means jump into your console and evaluate statements before you put them inside these if, else, if statements.